So I was going through my second divorce, and I was young still, 2 divorces. And my dad called me, and he was calling to check on me. And he asked me, "Why do you keep marrying these dangerous men?" And before I could say a word, he said, "Is it because of me?" And I said, "Yeah." You see, at that point, I was already going through therapy and was just learning about codependency and was learning why I was on divorce number 2 at a young age. And both of my divorces were to abusive men. And this conversation with my dad was a very unexpected one, but an important one. Very important for both of us. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about codependency, how to spot it, what it looks like, and how to break the cycle. Because we didn't just become codependent out of nowhere. You ready for it? Here we go. So we're not going to talk about, we're not going to blame anybody, right? Codependency starts in our childhood, usually. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not licensed, anything like that. I'm just speaking to you from my own experience, my own personal experience. I've been through therapy, so I had to learn from somebody who was licensed, and I would highly recommend you do the same. It's so helpful. Go to therapy. I'm just coming to you from somebody who's real, who's been through it. And if you've been through it, we're just sharing here. We're going to understand the pattern. We're going to pinpoint, or at least generalize where it all started. And we're gonna spot the pattern, because there's definitely a pattern. Like I said, we didn't just suddenly become codependent. We didn't just suddenly start choosing unhealthy relationships and clinging to them. We learned. Okay? We learned it. Let's talk about our childhood. So when I was growing up, my dad was abusive to my mom. And I was the oldest of multiple children in the family. And I was the one who was taking care of the kids while violence was going on. I was the one taking the younger children to the safe parts in the house, and whether that was moving them from one room to another, or closing and locking doors to keep us safe, or making sure that the younger ones weren't getting out of the rooms to go check on mom. And I was the one going out to make sure that the coast was clear and the fight was over. That was my role. And I was the one checking the temperature. If there was an argument, I would listen to see what what was what was the temperature like? How was the storm coming along? And that whole taking care of the siblings, that turns into an assigned role, whether it was self-assigned or a task given to me by my mom. I don't remember, but that was a role. And so I carried that role with me. And it stuck. If your childhood looks like walking on eggshells, trying to figure out what's the temperature like? Is there tension in the house? Do I need to get the kids to another room? Do we need to keep each other quiet? Do we have to manage other people's emotions by behaving better? Do we have to tolerate disrespect? If your childhood was, if your home was like that, if that's what home looked like, then that's what dictated what love looked like to you. If that's what love looked like as a child, then that's what love will look like as an adult. Codependency is where you become responsible for another adult's emotions. It's where you want to rescue another adult from their own consequences. You feel like being needed equates to being loved. Now, caring for somebody doesn't necessarily mean codependency. Caring for someone is not the same. You can always care for somebody, that's good. It's when caring for somebody becomes your identity. It's when somebody else's needs come before your own needs and becomes part of your own makeup. It's when your whole identity is managing somebody else's emotions. And your own identity falls apart if they leave. It's like being needed is like a drug. When I first was going through my divorce, I felt like I wanted to rescue animals. How random is that? Like I actually took in Corwin because I had this need to take on a bird. For some reason, I did all the research, and I did all this research, and I was like, I can do this. And I found an ad in Craigslist for a cockatiel for $50. And I went for it, and I took in Corwin, and I talked to my therapist about it, and she was like very quick to catch on. And she said, we have to talk about this. She knew immediately that this was codependency, the need to be needed. I no longer had a significant other, a romantic partner to manage. And then I don't mean manage in like a controlling way, but almost like emotionally controlling somebody's, not like controlling, like telling somebody what to do, but managing somebody, like that whole walking on eggshells thing. And how can I make him happy? Is this gonna, if he's unhappy because of this, how can I change it? What can I do? That whole thing becomes your identity when you're codependent. And so once you're out of that relationship, it's almost like a drug. You have to have something else. A puppy. Let's go rescue a dog. Let's go to the animal shelter. Let's buy a bird. And so my therapist was like, we have to talk about this. And thankfully, Corwin's situation worked out wonderfully, because it ended up being a really good teaching moment for me, or not teaching moment, but a good lesson for me in learning all about my childhood trauma and how to get through it, and codependency as well, because I got to learn why I made the choice to purchase him. When you find yourself telling people 4 words, but I love them, but I love them, if that is your default reason, that's a good sign. That's a good sign that you are not just in an unhealthy relationship, but perhaps could be codependent. Because your reason of, but I love them, is not a reason. I don't want to say it's an excuse, because in your mind, it is a reason in your mind. It feels like it. Now, the love. So many times we equate love to a feeling, and we forget that love is a verb. Okay, let me say that again. So many times we equate love to the feeling, and it is. We feel love in the affection way, we feel love in the caring way, but we forget that love is a verb as well. Sometimes love means to stop enabling unhealthy behavior. Sometimes the "but I love him" has to be "and I love him." When somebody says, why do you stay? Why can't you just leave him? I really, that question, or those questions, can be really frustrating. It can be frustrating. I get it. I understand why people ask, because most people, when they ask that, it's because they don't understand. They don't get why people stay in unhealthy relationships. And it's frustrating when people have friendships that they love or care about people who are in unhealthy relationships, and they say, why? Why do you stay? It can be hard to watch somebody make these kinds of decisions over and over again. But it can be frustrating for those of us who either are in the situations or have been through that and know. We tend to say, in answer to that question, we tend to say, but I love them. We have to go through the work on ourselves and make the hard decisions and answer that question to ourselves, and maybe not to others just yet until we're ready. We have to ask ourselves, not why don't I leave? We can ask ourselves, what do I do? And we can say, and I love them, because love sometimes means making changes. Love is sometimes tough. Love sometimes means stepping away and to stop enabling unhealthy behaviors, because that doesn't do the other person any good. Love sometimes means choosing yourself over them. It doesn't always mean taking them back. Love is a verb as well as a feeling. Love is bigger than us, especially if we have children. And that's where this conversation is going to get a little tougher. And I'm going to be very careful, because I know this can be a little triggering. It's hard to hear. It's going to get a little bit tougher. But if you have kids, this is where you really, really need to listen. Because I had to listen too. When you have kids and you're in a codependent relationship, have to keep in mind that our kids are watching, and you were a kid too, and you watched also, and you learned, and this is how you got here. This is how you got here. And one of our goals is to break the cycle. Now, some of the questions that we need to ask is, what lessons are we teaching our kids? How are we teaching our kids what behaviors to tolerate from others? What's okay? Because they're watching that. Kids are watching what to tolerate from other people. Kids are watching whether or not apology comes with change. Kids are watching if keeping the peace means being quiet, staying silent. Kids are watching if making sacrifice or if self-sacrifice means sacrificing yourself all the time. Kids are watching if other people's needs are more important than theirs. Remember that they're learning what love looks like in the home they're in now. You're teaching them what love looks like first. So, even if you tell them what they see and what they hear out of you and your partner's mouths to each other, that's what's going to show them. So how do I break the cycle? How do I break generational curses? You ask yourself, what is it that I'm trying to control? What am I rescuing the other person from? What consequences am I trying to prevent? What behaviors have I normalized? What am I afraid will happen if I stop? What are my children learning? Maybe nobody taught you what a healthy relationship looked like. Maybe you learned that love meant rescuing, sacrificing yourself, violated boundaries or having no boundaries, and then going back for more. But once we recognize the pattern, we get to make a different choice. We get to change the relationships that we have right now. We get to show our children what healthy relationships look like. We get to teach healthy boundaries. We get to break the cycle. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself. Peace.